Chapter 10, Introduction. Cancellation of Nedarim. The Torah teaches in Numbers chapter 30, verses 2 through 17, that a father has the right, under certain conditions, to cancel his daughter's Nedarim and Shavuos. When a woman marries, that right passes to her husband. These laws are the subject of the last two chapters of the Tractate. Differences between cancellation and annulment. Cancellation of a neder is different from the annulment of a neder by a sage, discussed in chapter 9. Annulment is when a sage, or a panel of 3 knowledgeable men, find a way to consider a neder a mistake. He then annuls the neder, and in doing so, he completely uproots it as though it had never been made. Because of this, if someone made a neder and then transgressed it, if it is later annulled, he is not punished for transgressing the neder, since it is considered as though the neder had never existed. In contrast, when a father or husband cancels the neder of his daughter or wife, he does not need to find a way to consider it a mistake. If he does not approve of the neder, he simply stops it from that time on. That is, the neder is valid until it is canceled, at which point it is no longer binding. Therefore, if the woman transgressed the neder before it was canceled, she is punished for that transgression, since the neder was valid at the time. See the Rosh 10:11. Other differences between annulment and cancellation are: 1. A neder can be annulled at any time, whereas a father or husband can cancel a neder only on the day he hears about it. 2. Any kind of neder can be annulled, but a husband, and according to most authorities a father, can cancel only certain types of nedarim, those nedarim that cause her personal suffering or deprivation. For example, a neder that forbids her to eat fruit, and those that affect their relationship. For example, a neder that forbids her from cohabiting with her husband, or a neder that forbids her from taking any benefit from her father. These laws will be discussed in chapter 11. A girl's state of maturity. A father's control over his daughter's nedarim depends on her age. There are 3 stages in the life of a maturing girl. She is a katana, minor, from the day of her birth until she reaches the age of 12 and grows 2 pubic hairs, at which point she becomes a na'ara, partial adult. She remains a na'ara for 6 months, after which she becomes a bogeres, full adult. Nedarim made by a katana are usually not valid at all. However, once a girl turns 11, if we see that she is mature enough to understand that she has made a neder to God, her neder is valid. If she does not understand the neder's significance, it is not valid. Once she becomes a na'ara, her nedarim are always valid, even if she seems not to understand their significance. See Nida 5:6. The father's control over nedarim. An unmarried girl is in her father's domain while she is a katana or na'ara. Among other things, her father controls her nedarim. See Kesubos chapter 4, Mishnah 4. This means that on the day he hears about her neder, he could approve it or cancel it. If he approves it by saying or thinking, "It shall be approved for you," or "You have made a good neder," or a similar statement, he may no longer cancel it. If he cancels it by saying, "It shall be canceled for you," or a similar statement, the neder is canceled. See Rambam Hilchos Nedarim 13:2 and 3. If he lets the day go by and says nothing, he is considered to have approved it, and he may no longer cancel it. See Mishnah 10. See the Mishnah in chapter 10, Mishnah 8, and Ron 79a. Once a girl becomes a bogeres, she is no longer in her father's domain in any way, and he no longer has any control over her nedarim. The husband's control over nedarim. When a girl gets married, she leaves her father's domain and enters that of her husband. Accordingly, control over her nedarim passes to her husband, and he may approve or cancel them on the day he hears about them. However, he gains this control only after they are fully married. A Jewish marriage takes place in 2 steps. The first step is erusin, also known as kedushin. It is usually done by the man giving the woman an object of value, such as a ring. We have translated erusin as betrothal, but only for lack of a better English word. In truth, erusin is much more than betrothal. After erusin, the man, known as the arus, and the woman, the arusa, are considered married in most respects. She is strictly forbidden to all other men, and if they wish to end the betrothal, she must receive a get, divorce document, from the arus. However, the couple does not live together until after the second stage of marriage, nisuin, full marriage, which usually consists of the chuppah ceremony. It is then that she leaves her father's domain and completely enters her husband's domain. At this point, control over the woman's Nedarim passes to her husband, and he may approve or cancel them on the day he hears about them. A betrothed woman. Nowadays, both stages of marriage are performed one after the other in a single ceremony, but in earlier times, Arusin and Nisuyin were performed a long time apart, often a year or more. See Kesubos chapter 5, Mishnah 2. After Arusin, the woman would usually remain in her father's home until the Nisuyin. During this period, she is no longer completely in her father's domain, but is not yet completely in her husband's domain either. This is reflected in the right to cancel her Nedarim. During the betrothal period, the Arus and the father share control over the Arusa's Nedarim. Therefore, her Nedarim can be cancelled only if both her father and Arus cancel them. See Mishnah 10. See the Mishnah in chapter 10, Mishnah 1. However, this is true only if she is not yet a Bogeres. Once she becomes a Bogeres, she leaves her father's domain, and he no longer has any control over her Nedarim. Her Arus, though, does not yet have the power to cancel her Nedarim by himself, because she is not yet completely in his domain. Therefore, her Nedarim cannot be cancelled by anyone until she performs Nisuyin.